Hey there. Thanks for joining us for Tales of Misadventure, a podcast all about business blunders. On this podcast, Nicole Donnelly, founder of DMG Digital, talks to entrepreneurs and learns how they turn their lemons into lemonade. DMG Digital is a content marketing agency focused on helping manufacturers attract new buyers through digital self-serve. Nicole Donnelly is a fourth-generation entrepreneur, a girl mom, and an avid traveler. Now, let's head into a tale of misadventure with your host, Nicole Donnelly.
Welcome to Tales of Misadventure. I'm Nicole Donnelly. I'm your host. I'm the founder of DMG Digital, and I am so honored and delighted to be joined today by the lovely, massively hilarious, super talented, tenacious CEO and founder of GoLidZ, Bonnie Sussman Strominger. Bonnie, welcome to the show. How are you this morning?
Thank you, Nicole. Doing great. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Good, good, good. So I hear today is a special day in your house. Tell me about it. What's going
Today
on?
is today is my husband's birthday,
Oh my
so we are
gosh.
going to celebrate, go out for dinner. He's been a tremendous support system for me, for our team. He supports, backs everything we do, and honestly, I don't know where we'd be without him because you can't go
Mm.
on this journey without that. I mean, he has been there. He has seen everything. Lots of things he didn't want to see. But it's not always a pretty day when you're an entrepreneur. There are a lot of salty and disappointing, upsetting days, and he's here for all of them. And we're still together, so that says a lot about him.
I love it. I still have in my mind this beautiful post you had on LinkedIn, this lovely photo of you on your wedding day, and you just looked so, you were just lit up like a Christmas tree. And your husband, the look on his face, you could tell he just knew he landed just the catch of the century. He was just so
Uh,
happy. So that's wonderful. I love to hear that. You're
we're both
absolutely
very
right. Like entrepreneurship is the biggest roller coaster, even for me this week. I had a day the other day where it was like the world was falling down. Like everything felt like it was going wrong, one problem after another. Like literally, I went from one meeting to the next, and it was just like, oh, another problem I got to figure out, you know.
yeah.
And then the
And
next,
I have those all the time. I'm with you.
yes, yes, and then the next day you land a deal, and you're like, oh my gosh, like amazing, you know. So it's just like all the you just never know what the days are going to bring, right?
Yeah,
So
I love what I do. I hate what I do. We're successful. We're not at all successful. I mean, it's a Sybil. You're Sybil. Every other
yeah.
day, you don't know what's going to be, right? It's a box of chocolates. You have no idea what's going to happen.
So I love that part about it. I love the uncertainty. How do you feel about it? What keeps you going, Bonnie? What keeps you going?
Honestly, I think just the belief in what we do, and it's not easy, especially when you're creating a brand, and for us starting a new category,
Yeah.
it's daunting. It really is daunting, and you just have to find that strength. There are a lot of days, everyone can relate to this. You're not motivated. You don't feel
Yes.
that energy that you had yesterday, or maybe that you're going to have tomorrow. But on that particular day, you just feel somewhat lifeless. But you have to just pick yourself up and keep going, whether that's getting on the phone or setting up a Zoom or, collaborating with the team, something to just put the fire back in. And
Mhm.
so for me, that's what keeps us going. It's just the inspiration of everyone around us and everyone in our network, you and everyone else. Um, some days you just, for me, honestly, I don't force the energy, meaning if I'm not feeling it or if there's not a lot going on that particular day and I just need to think or figure out a next move, I will sit silent. Sounds a little
Mm.
crazy, but I will sit in a room, dead silent, no TV, no radio, no nothing. And I will sit there and kind of like in a Zen way and just think.
Yeah.
And some would say, okay, well, you just sat there for 2 hours and you could have been doing something. I am doing something. I'm thinking.
Yes.
And in the moments of silence, some of the greatest ideas have come to me, or a fix to a problem where we honestly couldn't figure out the solution. And we got on Zoom after Zoom after Zoom and with no resolve. And I realized it's too much energy in the room. And so me sitting in silence and just really sometimes even closing my eyes and
Mhm.
thinking through what is going on here. How do we fix this? And 9 times out of 10, I come up with something.
I love that. I find that's so cool, Bonnie. I do the same thing. I do
Do
the same
you?
thing. Yes, I have to just like go in my room, close the door, and not do anything. I literally will lay on my bed and curl up and just sit there. And
Yeah.
I used to feel guilty about it. I used to feel like, oh, I'm just being lazy. I need to keep going. I need to keep working. And to be honest, now I relish it. I'm like, oh, I just need this time.
I used to feel guilty too. I actually can relate to that because I'd be like, okay, could you be any lazier? Maybe you're having a bad day because of this. Maybe because you're not doing anything. But I
Mhm.
now understand that is not actually what's going on. And it's not laziness and it's not even, it might be some procrastination, but I find in moments of procrastination are some genius moments where
Mm.
because you're not doing anything, you can actually think clearly instead of you're getting ready for a Zoom, you're looking at 25 emails, you're getting pinged a million times on social media. Um, there's a problem going on. The manufacturer called. There's an issue on the line. 19 different things. So you lock all that out and pull some peace in and some quiet, and it's amazing what the mind and the brain can achieve in silence, total dead silence. And here's something else I do, and this is even stranger. This is going to
Mm.
really make you laugh. So there are days where they're tough days, right? But then there are days where you're just in a bad mood. Everyone can relate to that. I don't think there's a human being that can say, I'm never in a bad mood. It's impossible. A lot
Right.
goes on. It's exhausting. It's stressful. There are days where everything goes wrong and you are in a legitimate bad mood. And it's very hard to pull yourself out. People have a hard time doing it. It's just kind of something that you have to find a way to do it. You know what I do? My solution? I put on a sitcom. One of my
Mm.
favorite sitcoms that makes me roll and fall off the chair.
And what is
And
one of
it's
your
30
favorites?
30 minutes, and I swear it's just enough. Because once you start laughing and you start smiling, it signals your brain that you are happy and that you're not in a bad mood. But
Yeah.
you can't, to sit there in a room and smile like a psycho. You look a little weird. It's like you just sit there and you're in a bad mood, but you're like this. You look
Yeah.
crazy. So I need to put on a show or a movie clip or something that's actually going to create me laughing and smiling. And that's what I'll do. One of my favorites, you said?
Yeah,
King
what's your
of
favorite?
Queens.
What's your go-to? King of
One of my
Queens.
favorites is King of Queens.
I need to
Kevin
watch it.
James.
I've never seen it. I need to watch
You've
it.
never seen King of Queens? Okay.
No,
I implore you.
I
Go
will
on
do it.
go on demand. I'm jealous that you've never seen it. There are 9 seasons. I am jealous. You are going to laugh so hard. You don't even know how funny. Kevin James is beyond hilarious. It's one of my
He is
go-tos.
funny. Yeah, I will
30
definitely
minutes,
put
30
on.
minutes and you will be laughing and smiling. You
Oh,
have to, everyone has their own creative ways to snap out of it. But to
it's so
sit and say
true.
that everyone's in a great mood every day, it's impossible. You know,
I love you're just I think these two examples of you taking time for yourself in quiet and you take making time, it's like you're training your brain, you're training your mind. And I think being a successful entrepreneur is all about like intentionally training that mind, like really nurturing that mindset and so that you're in a good, healthy spot. Man, I
I
love that.
agree. And really finding, I think every entrepreneur has to find their own coping mechanism. So you have to
Yeah.
find what works for you. And that's
Mhm.
why, a lot of the advice on LinkedIn, it's all well intentioned and it's all great advice if you're that person.
Right.
And that's where you need to make sure that the advice doesn't wash over you and you don't start creating habits that don't actually fit with who you are as a human being and as a person. If you force that, you're going to be so uncomfortable and feel like you are wrapped up in this tight ball because you're not letting your own self come out. You know, I'm not saying don't read the posts on LinkedIn and hail the advice because it's fantastic. And I love to share advice about entrepreneurship as well. But ultimately, you do need to tap in and have self awareness. into what you can and can't do. If someone says that they like to bike 5 miles on the weekends, and that's what creates peace, you're not going to go buy a bike, really. Are you going to go buy a bike and try and get on a trail and you're not a biker and you're going to bike 5 miles? You can kill yourself. You have to take everything with a dose of big dose of reality on who you are and versus what they're telling you to be. So yeah.
I love that about self-awareness too. And I think the more that you spend time with yourself, and I think people think that there's a selfishness there, like, oh, I should be doing something for other people. I can't spend time with myself. But I disagree. I think when you intentionally spend time with yourself in quiet, like you're just mentioning, that gets you in more in tune with your body and your mind, and it allows you to become much more self-aware because you're aware of what your thoughts are that are happening. You can acknowledge them, adjust them. And so like by taking that time for yourself, then you really understand who you are and what you need to be successful. And you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Like it's different for everyone, like it's not going to be the same. You got to be authentic to who you are. Oh, this is so much fun, Bonnie. I just adore you.
Love
Thank you
this. Yeah,
so much.
I could. This is the best part for me is just
Yeah.
connecting with entrepreneurs and business owners and just sharing. You know,
Yeah.
that's how you learn. That's
Yeah.
how I've learned from
Let's
others.
talk about you are the founder of GoLidZ. I want to talk about this amazing product that you've developed. It's incredible. I wish I had one here to show. I was like, "Oh, I wish I had one I could show." But
I did
it's
bring one in.
it's so
It should be
innovative.
next. It's
Yay!
empty.
Oh my goodness. So this is
It's not much
GoLidZ.
in
This
here.
is like amazing. I remember the first time I saw this, my eyes popped out of my head and I was like, that is so ingenious. And so the
Thank you.
straw just fits perfectly in, right? Like you can open up the lid.
There's
Wow.
actually a grate here, so
Yeah.
it goes along a grate.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I mean, they're so rock solid. Every customer that we ship these to, they say the same thing. We thought they were going to be flimsy as
Yeah.
all holy hell. And then they get them and they're like, wow, they're not flimsy at all. I mean, they're so rock solid. And that's why we say reuse, 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 reuse. Do
Right.
not use them once and discard it. That's the last thing we want anyone doing.
Yeah.
I understand if it's out being served at a QSR, that consumer may or may not take it home, but it's education. So if we're educating and the QSR is telling their consumers, take it home, sanitize, wash it out, and use it and use it and use it again, then maybe they'll listen. But if they don't say anything, then they might think it's a disposable, single use, chuck it in the garbage. And we don't want that to happen for obvious reasons.
Yeah. Oh, I love it so much. And I think there's so
Thank
much,
you.
I mean, I'm just thinking like if you're at the ballpark, if you're in New York City and you're walking around, it's just, and if you have kids,
Oh,
and as
yeah.
moms, you're like trying to juggle everything, like the
Theme
convenience factor
parks,
is huge. Yeah.
water parks, strollers, you know,
Yes.
the mom with the stroller and
Strollers.
the kids and the
Yes.
cup holder stroller. At least mom can have some food and drink while she's taking
Yeah,
care of everyone else, which is what moms do, you know?
exactly.
So,
Love.
and I
So
have to
how did,
say
yeah.
that this LinkedIn community blows my mind because, every week we have orders and I look through the queue to see, what's going on, et cetera, et cetera. And I cannot tell you, it's mind blowing how many names I see that I'm like, that's LinkedIn. That's LinkedIn. That's
Oh, that's
LinkedIn.
amazing.
So many people. I mean, people that have not even engaged with us on our posts before. So many people ordering GoLidZ. And I can't believe it. I mean, so many people following our journey that decide to get a consumer pack. It blows my mind. And every week I see the names and I'm like, wow, it actually is, it's outperforming the names on regular social that we don't know who's ordering. They're just orders coming in from strangers. These numbers are stacking up on LinkedIn and it's amazing. So supportive. We're so appreciative, so grateful for it.
I think that's a testament to just what a great job you've done at branding. Like whenever I see your posts on LinkedIn, you're so authentic. And I love that you also post a lot of user generated content and stories and bring that social proof in. And
Yeah.
I think people really resonate with that. They see your authenticity, they see your realness, and they're like, I love like your tenacity and your grit and and it's just frankly
Thank
an
you.
ingenious product.
Try to mix it up so we don't it's
Yeah.
not too much of one thing. I think everyone on
Mhm.
LinkedIn has to do that. You have to kind of come up with a strategy where it's not one thing.
Yeah.
You can still talk about your product as long as you're not, putting up salesy, salesy, salesy. But you also have to mix in. We all know LinkedIn loves personal right now, right?
Yeah.
They love personal stories. They love personal journeys that you're on. So you got to mix it up. So how did I come up with it?
Yeah.
And you've heard the story before, but it was back in the 90s at a movie theater, and I was on a date, a very bad date, and we went to the concession stand and we got hot dogs and popcorn and sodas and candies, and somehow this moron gave everything to me to carry. I have no idea why I took it. I was young. I was definitely stupid. I didn't want to rock the boat. I was on a date. I was in college. So I took it all. I was carrying everything. When we got into the theater, we had to sit in the middle of the row because this guy had no seats. And climbing in, there's always a guy with like big knees, some like a big person. And I climbed over, and my like back of my leg got stuck on his knee, and I just flipped
Oh,
over. And the popcorn went over, and the lids came off the sodas,
oh
and
my
the
God.
hot dogs went flying. And I didn't just soak the people in our row, but the people behind us and the people in front of
Oh,
us.
oh, how mortifying. Did you
And
stay for the
I,
movie?
I did stay, albeit I was sitting in my chair kind of crying, but the lights were out, so nobody could see. But I was like, I
What's
mean,
what did your date do? I wanna know what his response is. You said he was a
he
terrible
was
date. What
such a
did he do when
he
all
was
this
such
happened?
a jerk. He's like, "Oh, you should have told me to carry something." I'm like, "What now?
You
What's this? Are you kidding? Are you kidding?"
my
I don't know
gosh.
why. I don't know how that happened, but I have to tell you, I sat there the whole time thinking that this is so outdated. That should not have happened. There must have something should have been connected to something else. The hot dog should have been sitting on the soda,
Yeah.
or there should have been an easier way to get in and get out. And that's honestly how the concept was born. And I went home from the theater. I drew a sketch, which
No
I tell
kidding.
everyone, like, if you have a great idea, write it down. Sketch
Yeah.
it and write it down. Write a brief description, because ideas come. We all have great ideas. But if you notice, they'll come into you for 10 minutes, and then you get busy doing something else and you have no idea what you thought of. You're like, what was that thing I thought of? I don't remember. So now I keep a pad next to my bed that if I think
Mhm.
of an idea, I pull it out. It could be 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning. I will write it down. Brief description. So when I wake up in the morning in a coma, I didn't forget what I thought of. So that's what I did. I wrote it down. I left. I went home. I graduated college, and that was it. There was no, it was different times then. We didn't have this. No one had a phone.
Mhm.
So we weren't down a hand. We didn't give our life away yet to social media. And I felt like, okay, overloaded on the go. It's kind of a life burden you just accept, right? We're
Mhm.
all always lugging. You got strollers and bags and packages, and you have to carry it. That's it. If you go skiing, you got poles, you got all kinds of stuff. It's not the most pleasant experience. Golfing, you got
Yeah.
golf clubs. I mean, everyone's lugging everywhere you go. And that's just kind of life. You just expect it and you accept it. But when this phone came out and I started watching everyone outside Starbucks and Dunkin' and all these places, you started to see something very different happening, which was, yeah, they're still lugging and still have laptops and everything else, but now there's a fixture that's like become part of your hand. And, go walk around, go to the airport. This is what you see. No one puts this thing down. No one
Mhm.
wants to put it down. They're afraid they're going to lose it. If it
Mhm.
rings, it's too annoying to go dig it out. So it's constantly in your hands. And then by generation, Gen Z, millennials, no one puts this thing down. And truthfully, I do more business on this phone than I do from the laptop.
Yeah,
I'm on this
interesting.
way more than I'm on the laptop. Yes, documents and contracts and things like that, that has to be the laptop. But all social media and interaction, emails, social messaging, all of that, it's the phone.
Yeah.
So that's when I realized. And that didn't really happen. The smartphone kind of revolution didn't happen until 2007, 2008. So it started, germinating then. And then it took me a bunch of years beyond that to figure out, logistically, and how does this thing work? How do we make it? Gather resources. So we really didn't begin until 2012.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Man, I love
1990. To think of something in 1990 and not begin until 2012 is just, it's a little crazy.
it. It's brilliant because I think what it illustrates is how important timing is. Like you knew exactly when the right time was for you to bring that to market. And I also
Yeah. And
love
you know what they say?
this.
Timing
Yeah,
is more important than money.
interesting. I've never heard that before. I love that, but
Yeah.
that's a
Timing
perfect example.
and the order of things of an entrepreneur's level or barrier to success, and the probability of success, rather. Timing is one of the most important aspects, and more so than capital.
How did you know it was just that you saw more people with cell phones and that's how you knew it was the right time?
I just, it just kind of sat in my head. I was thinking, like what I said before, it's always been a problem, always been uncomfortable carrying and whatever it is. But the phone, it literally took away your hand.
Yeah.
Like it made it as inconvenient as it was before to grab something on the go. It became way less convenient. One additional thing that's not an occasional thing. It's constant. I don't put this down. When I go out into New York City or I'm walking around, it's just, it's constantly in the hand.
Yeah.
And so that's what I started thinking about it then. And then a whole revolution on our end started because, the businesses want to offer convenience to their consumers, but they're not going to do it and crush their bottom line to do it. So there has to be something in it for them. And we realized, well, yeah, there is. Consumers make decisions based around convenience. We do it
Mhm.
every day. Look at delivery, look at Uber, look at Amazon. It's all based around how convenient can you make it. And so when you make it convenient, just like a Starbucks or McDonald's, if you go in, you don't go to Starbucks for lunch. No one says, "Hey, Nicole, want to go to Starbucks for lunch?" That sounds crazy. Go to Starbucks to get a nice coffee or something to drink. But when you're there, what do they want to do when you're at Starbucks? They would love you to buy something to eat. And if it's inconvenient, it's more often than not that people say, I'm okay. But if you say, would you like something to eat? We can put it in a
Oh,
GoLid, hand it to you, and it's handy. It's all in one hand, and it's covered and
yeah,
sealed.
that's nice.
And yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll have something to eat. Why not? So, and
Mm,
that's a revenue driver. So that's the aspect we came up with, for them, so that
love
we
it.
could round out the value proposition.
Well, your example of how you came up with this product is like a perfect tale of misadventure. Like it was a blunder that happened in the movie theater. You're like spilling it everything all over people. And in
It
that
is the
moment of, I'm
ultimate,
sure, utter mortification and embarrassment, that's when genius happened for you, you know? I think
and it was
that's
so horrible. I mean,
yeah.
I can't repeat the things that these people were calling me. You know, I soaked everybody. I always tell everyone, the man that I tripped over, he was a big man, he was bald, and
Mhm.
when I looked up from the sticky, disgusting theater floor that I was on, and I looked up, all I saw was this man and popcorn. Like I called it a popcorn toupee because he just had popcorn like sitting on his head, and the
Wow.
look on his face. There was so much anger on his face.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. I mean, people were angry. Yeah. I mean, I soaked dozens of people. I would be angry too.
And
Look
look
at this
what's
club
look
you
at
just did.
that one small incident and now it's turned into this thriving business. Incredible.
I should
Incredible.
thank this guy from the date, right?
Maybe you can
Write him
have
a
a
thank you
picture
note.
on your wall, the guy with the popcorn toupee.
Yeah. Call the popcorn toupee guy and be like, remember me?
I know, right? Oh my God.
Would you like some stock in our company?
Amazing. Well, I want to hear more. Like one of the things I also love about you is that you talk about your dad a lot. And I have my dad passed away a couple of years ago and
Oh, I'm sorry.
he was a very successful entrepreneur and I always looked up to and admired what he was able to build. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about, like, tell me about your dad. What are some of the qualities he had, maybe like that you feel like you carry on in you? How do you honor his legacy?
Oh, God, it's the best question. My dad was the absolute best. I miss him every day. He just had this big personality, and he was so he was able to be so firm and
Mm,
so powerful with his words without being an abrasive jerk. And it's
mm,
hard to pull that off. So he was an entrepreneur, he had a big business, but his people loved him because he could be really firm and say, "This is what I need, and this is not up for discussion." But yet, there was a kindness about him, and a
mm,
soft side to him. So he really had like a great leadership quality that I admired, because he was able to lead, but also have empathy and kindness and treat his people right. And I always thought that that was amazing because that's not easy to pull off for a lot of people. He also had this awesome personality, so funny. I mean, that's where I get the funny. Like
mm.
when you say I'm funny,
Wow.
and I go on other podcasts and they're like, "You're so funny." It's my father. It's my father because life without laughter is not a life, right? I mean, that's my favorite thing to do is laugh. If you could just sit
Yeah.
and laugh all night long with friends or family or a spouse or a loved one, what's better than that? That's a great night. It doesn't even matter where you are. You could be
Mhm.
sitting on the floor of the living room with the lights out and nothing special ambiance going on. But if you could sit there and laugh and have a great time, that's the ultimate tell that you've had a great night or a great day. Yeah. And
That's
so that's what we
beautiful.
used to do with him.
Mm,
Um, and he just was so supportive. I'm so disappointed he's not here to see our journey continue,
mm,
because he's been gone over 3 years. This coming
mm.
November will be 4 years. I can't even believe it. But he
Wow.
always said something to me my whole life. He said, "If you don't try, you're never gonna know." Because anytime I told him growing up that I didn't want to do something, or I was afraid, or I was convinced even before trying that I would fail, and so I'd say, "No, I'm not, Dad. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that." And he'd say, "If you don't try, you're never gonna know. How are you ever going to know?" And he drilled that into my head my entire life. So that's what I hear every time I decide in my mind I'm not going to do that because maybe it's not going to work, or it's a bad strategy, or it's going to fail for us. I hear my dad in my head saying, you don't know the answer because you didn't even try."
Drop the mic. I love
The
that.
best.
So beautiful. I think I was just talking with a friend of mine the other day about this. Like, fear is always there, right? And it's like whether or not you choose to see fear as a deterrent or a propellant, right? Like leaning into the fear and saying, you know what, I'm going to overcome this. And I love that story. My dad used to always say, make it happen all the time. I remember hearing him as a kid on the phone. He'd be like, let's make it happen. He'd be talking to whoever, I don't even know, whoever he's working with. And so every day I hear his voice in my head telling me, make it happen, Nicole, make it happen. I think that's really
Yeah.
beautiful.
And
That's really cool.
it's the same kind of message,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
just go out and
Just do
get
it.
it and make it happen, and right, create your own opportunity. Something else he always used to say to me, which is even resonates even more a little bit, is, what's the worst thing you envision happening?
Mhm.
What is the absolute worst thing? If you do this one thing that you're terrified of doing, whether it's calling a company or going to a networking event, or showing up to a party where you literally know nobody, you're by yourself, all these things that put you out of your comfort zone, that make us all want to cringe inside and send our heartbeat racing because we're so filled with anxiety just to step out of our comfort zone. And he would say, what's the worst thing that can happen? And he would say, actually, I want you to answer the question. I'm not
Yeah.
even just answering you theoretically. I'm asking you, for this particular thing you're telling me you cannot do, what's the worst thing that can happen? Tell me right now what it is. Are you going to fall in the pool at the party?
Mhm.
Probably not. Are you going to knock over the tray with all the beverages? The big table. Are you going to? What's going to happen? And that's what I sit and think of all the time in business. Every time I hesitate, what's going to happen? What's the
Mm,
absolute worst, most cringeworthy thing I could think of happening?
mm.
And then
I want
actually pretend that it's already happened.
Yeah, that's brilliant advice because you realize because I've done that exercise before, and when you do it, you realize the worst case scenario really isn't that bad. And it's not,
Right.
it's not going to be the worst case scenario is never worse than what it could be if it goes well. Like the
No, and it's
opportunity is always way more of a what would you call it? Way more of a positive than anything
yes,
worst case could ever be when you really think about it. That's
it's
beautiful.
always so much worse in your head.
Mhm.
It's amazing what the mind does to us because,
It's always
and we
worse.
believe what it tells us. And so it can scare the living daylights out of you and
Yep.
talk you out of something and so quickly. I mean, I have that kind of mind. I'm sure you do too, where it's constantly running. I have
Yes.
sleeping issues,
Yep.
sleep problems due to it. It keeps me up, and once the engine starts and the motor's go, it I don't know how to shut it off. I mean, literally, I don't know how to put it to sleep. And part of it is a lot of it is fear. A lot of it is okay. Tomorrow, I planned on, let's see, just make something up, calling the CEO of XYZ brand,
Right.
right? Probably not going to get through to him because he has gatekeepers, right? Um, but I'm going to try, and I'm going to try. And then what's the worst that's going to happen?
That's the worst
So
that's
you're
gonna
probably
happen.
going to feel a little sick when you call the office, a little nauseous when you dial there because you're like, well, who am I trying to get this person on the line? Um, and then what are you going to say? Because the gatekeepers are there for a reason. They're not just gatekeepers. They're actually there to screen a lot of things. Some messages won't even make it to that CEO because the gatekeepers decided it's not even worthy. Like she's not going to hand them a stack of 100 messages. So, and that's what they do. So, but what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to blunder your words, right?
Mhm.
Everything's going to get a little chopped up because you're going to be like, I don't know what I'm talking about. And the other worst thing that's going to happen is that this guy's never going to call you back. And
Worst
you'll
things.
have to call again. And you're
Yeah.
probably going to have to 6 more times. If you
Yeah.
think you're going to call once and get a return phone call, it's unlikely. But, the one thing my dad also used to say is you only need one, the power of
Mm,
one. So maybe you do make 15 stomach flipping phone calls to people that probably are not going to call you back. But if one of them does, if one out of the 100 does, great. And there's a
mm.
good chance that the other 99 at some point will regret not calling you back. That'll take some time.
What an inspiration. What do you think your dad would say to you now? If he was sitting in the room with you, what would he tell you?
I think he'd be really proud, but I also think that I think he'd have some criticisms. Absolutely. And that's the thing.
Mm,
I like the criticism.
yeah.
I always tell any company that we try to get feedback from that passes, doesn't want to do business with us, I am dying to know why. And
Yeah.
I don't want to hear the good things. I don't want to hear, oh, it's this, it's innovative. I want to hear all the stuff that they didn't like. You know,
Mm,
what didn't you like? What did we say that you didn't like?
mm,
It's an opportunity to learn, to get better, and it's hard to get that feedback. So I always say, you kind of really have to put your foot in the door and beg for the feedback and make it okay for them to kind of insult you a little,
mm.
that like you could take it, you're asking for it.
Yeah.
Take your best shot because I could take it, and it's okay to tell me why you don't like us and why you don't
Yep.
want to do business with us. Most companies don't really step in to do that, but if you let them know, go ahead, take your best shot. We want to know because we want to get better for the next time. They might. Many will.
I love that. That is like, to me, that is marketing gold. Anybody who's listening to this, if you want to grow a successful business, you got to stay as close to your customers as possible, like you're suggesting, and you need to ask for that hard feedback. I would love to know, Bonnie, what is some feedback you've gotten from a customer that you heard and you acted on, like specifically? Is there an example you can share of something that you heard from a customer that they were just I'm sure there's several. Maybe,
Oh God,
all
yes.
right. But like,
Hold on.
tell us about
Let me
what
go
was.
get my box out with all the complaints in the box, and then it's so big. I couldn't even count all of them. But
Yeah,
I'll pull one out.
yeah.
I actually just posted about one. All right. Well, you know what? May as well dive into this because I just posted about this yesterday, 2 days ago. Most of the, for the most the greater part of our time, we've been B2B, right? And we
Hmm.
only ship pallets of product, which is hard because it does kind of exclude small
Mm,
businesses around the
yeah.
country that don't want to buy a pallet of product and don't want to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to try an innovative product, right? So during the pandemic, we started getting a lot of nasty messages. Some of them were a
Mm,
little too like harsh emails. And I put one up on LinkedIn. I put the whole email up on LinkedIn, and which is basically like, we're very disappointed. We don't understand why you only offer pallets. You have a very innovative product, but the way you do business is not that of an innovative company.
wow.
Uh,
Oh my God.
oh my God. I honestly felt the knife go in and turn. And I was
Right.
like, okay, okay. Like, that was the
Wow.
final straw. We'd already gotten
Yeah.
lots of emails. They weren't as harsh as that one. When I
Yeah.
read that, I called someone on our team and I was like, you have to read this. And I feel sick because
Mhm.
innovation, I mean, that's what we do. That's who we are. We
Yeah.
are an innovative company. And
Absolutely.
I understand why he wrote it. And I know who the person is, actually. And that's what made it even more difficult because I've spoken
Mhm.
to him. So I
Mhm.
was a little shocked he sent that in to customer service. He didn't send it to me, but he sent it in. I don't know if he thought I'd ever see it, but of course, they forwarded it right to me. I mean, it was in
Right.
my inbox in 2 seconds. They're like, Bonnie, oh my God, look at this. And I was like, oh my God. So of course I called him. But putting that aside, I was like, okay, what do we do? It was during the pandemic. Not an easy time to maneuver. I mean, everyone was just trying to stay afloat. And it sounds like an easy fix. Why can't we sell cases? What is the reason? It's a very simple reason. We weren't set up for it. So, long story short, I was like, if we do this, we're going to have to move all of our inventory across the country to a 3PL. Not easy. Load up all the trucks, truckloads of inventory. Not only that, but the expense of trucking during pandemic, and it's still not good,
Yeah.
it went up tenfold. So what normally would have cost $600 to go from New York to Chicago suddenly was $3,000. And now multiple trucks, and then 3PL signing on with them, the fees involved, setting up the system, setting up e-commerce online, being able to order on the phone, but also we wanted to, well, if we're going to do it, we're going to do e-commerce and
Right.
let them order cases online. It's too time consuming to start taking phone calls from food service
Yeah.
customers around the country for one case, two cases. Who has,
Right.
that's not the best use of this team's time. So it was daunting. And I was like, okay, well, let's do it. We were locking out them. And something else that this guy wrote was, obviously, you guys are only interested in big business and you don't
Mm,
care about the small
yeah.
businesses in the backbone of this country.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I was like, I literally, that's one of the moments I went into a room and sat there and I was just silent, silent. I had to lower the light and I just sat there thinking, okay, that's the final straw. I
Yeah.
cannot read something like that and not do something about it.
Well, yeah, because
So
you know what I hear from, I mean, that what he was saying was completely against the ethos of your brand. Like you heard that and you're like, wait a second, we're an innovative company and we care about the small businesses. And so,
right.
because he was saying something like that and calling you out, you realize, like, in order for us to stay true to our brand and who we are, we have to make this change. And short term, I bet it was incredibly painful. But I love how you saw the long term vision of it. You said we've
It was
got
a
it.
root. It was a root canal.
Yeah. You were like, man, this is going to hurt. But when we get on the other, you were looking at the other side of it and knew that on the other
Yeah.
side of it, that's where you wanted to take the company, and that's where you knew that you needed to position yourself, and you're willing to sheesh, do the
And
do
I'll tell you, the
yeah.
vision of doing it actually it lines up now, because if you look around, everyone's talking about B2B e-commerce. Every
Yes.
company needs to offer
Mhm.
B2B e-commerce, and you guys talk about it all the time
Right.
on your show with Damon and Kurt.
Yeah.
And yeah, everyone's looking to get in to
Mhm.
e-commerce. How do we do it? And for us, we did it already. Do we have a
Yep.
lot to learn? Absolutely. Have we perfected it? No. Have we perfected the art of driving traffic? No. So there's a lot of stuff that make it hard, and it's difficult, and you have to kind of, like you always talk about, your avatar, and
Yep. Know your
getting the
body.
traffic, and not being the
Mhm.
best kept secret, and how do you do it? How do you get out there? Um, and then there's, is pricing right?
Yeah.
Is your digital asset functioning properly? Is it too slow? Is it too fast? Is it lacking information? Is it talking enough about the customer, not about how fabulous we are as a company? Look at us. We're
Mhm.
we're fantastic. We don't really care about you. We're just, look at us shine. All these things, and we're still working on it, and we'll get it straight eventually. But at least we're so far ahead of the game that
Yeah.
we're not sitting here in this moment saying, how do we make this conversion right now?
Well, that's the beautiful thing about a business, growing a business and marketing a business is that what you just said is you're still working on it. Like it's never going to be done. And I think when you accept that and embrace that, like there's not really like an end game. There's just this process of becoming. And that's the beautiful part. Like the beautiful part is like this journey that you're on and that you're constantly trying to improve your company, your product, serving your customer. Like I think the more you stay in that zone and mindset rather than trying to get to this like in this what arbitrary end zone, I think that's where you're really going to find the most joy and where your customers are really going to resonate with you. So I
Yeah,
love that so much. So
I
what is
agree. I agree, and it's not easy. It's not easy. Like I said in my post, change is very uncomfortable.
yeah.
There's nothing comfortable about change. It's painful
Mhm.
and it's
Yeah.
awkward, and nobody really ever wants to do it. We deal with it all the time. We have this product, but in order to take GoLidZ in, you need to change. You have to change
Yeah.
how you're serving. Something big has to happen, and a lot of companies, they talk about innovation. They're innovative. They're all about innovation. But when the doors close, behind closed doors, they don't really want to change. Not if
Yeah.
it's going to mean, upsetting multiple aspects of their business. And
Yeah,
so
that
that's what
fear
we
of
we got to
cannibalizing the
make it
business, right? A
right.
lot of companies
We
are afraid of cannibalizing existing revenue streams, especially with e-commerce, if they've been in inside sales and distributor
yeah,
networks and all of that, And
it's hard.
the disruptors that are making the impact are the ones that are saying, "Screw it, I'm just going for it." I'm gonna
Yeah,
find a
it's a,
way.
it's a, it's a
Yeah.
really delicate dance, and it
Yeah.
requires a lot of finesse. And
Mhm.
I don't have all the answers. We don't have all the answers. We're all just learning as we go. But
Yeah.
if you sit there as a company and you're frozen and you're not making any moves strategically to learn or to get in, then you're really gonna wind up screwed,
You're gonna
because
be
you're not, yeah, you're not following the ethos of commerce now. What's going
Yeah.
on now? And you can't live the way you did 2 years ago. Whatever you did 2 years ago, nobody cares, and it's probably no longer valid because so much
Mm.
has shifted. Look at
Yeah.
AI. All of a sudden, AI is the thing. 2 years ago, nobody was talking about Chat GPT. Now
Yeah.
they are.
It's
So if you're
completely.
not constantly evolving, then you're sleeping at the wheel, and then you're waiting around for it. I mean, look what just happened at Bed Bath Beyond.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think
Oh
like to
God,
your point earlier, like constantly evolving, you have like developed this massively thick skin of like, I'm going to hear the feedback we're getting from customers. I'm going to stay close to that. I want to know exactly what's happening. I'm going to ask them every single chance I get. That to me is like you are staying on the cusp because the closer you
yeah,
can
it's
stay to
like
that, do that and get that thick skin and hear that feedback, but actually act on it, those are the
yeah,
companies and
it's
brands that
like
are going to last.
this. Hit me, hit me. It's like hit me, hit me. I can take it. Hit me. Finally, someone's like, "Fine, I'll hit you."
Oh my
That's what it is. You
gosh.
have to. You got to be willing to take the punch.
Yeah.
and not fall apart from it. That's the thing. Like if you want to hear someone's feedback and then you're going to crumble when you do hear the feedback, then you should not be in this business, because there's nothing more wonderful than someone telling you, look, you guys don't make the grade. We had that happen to us several times. We went to a show, actually. It was a show a while ago. It was in Vegas, and it was still early for us and our iterations. We weren't, we weren't at this size. It was way smaller. It didn't really hold even like a full hot dog. We were still iterating and commercializing. But I sat down with a lot of CEOs, and a lot of them were like, okay, do you want to really know what's wrong with this thing? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, do you really want to know what's wrong with it? Because we're never going to buy this the way it is now. And
Oh, well,
yeah, it was a
I'm
gut punch.
so
It was a
happy to
gut
hear
punch. They're like, it's too small. You need to make this thing 4 inches wider, 4 inches deeper, this, that. I'm like, what now? What? You want to hear it, but you don't want to hear it,
Yep.
because you think you have something fantastic and you find out that they don't see it that way.
Yeah, it's ego. It's
It
always
hurt.
yeah.
Yeah, it hurts. Especially when you realize that it's going to be time, resources, and money to fix it.
Mhm.
Forget the ego. It's how are we going to fix this? If what they're saying in fact is true, then how do we fix it?
Yeah.
And in our case, I flew home, I got off the plane, and I went straight to the manufacturer. And I threw it on the table, and I was like, all right, well, let's get to work. We have a lot to do. Now, why did I take what this person said as gospel? Because I didn't hear it from one person. I heard it from 10 different heads of companies, all saying the same thing. So if that's not enough of a,
Yeah.
of a bar to listen to, it doesn't get much better than that.
What a
But
gift.
turning it around, that part of it sucked,
Yeah.
because now we have to change the whole product, everything. When you're manufacturing and you change width, depth, it's functionality.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're literally changing everything, and it's not a quick sketch of the pen. It's not a new CAD. It's so much more than that. It's prototyping,
Mm.
over and over to over to say, does this actually work? Can it be made bigger? Or did we hit the wall at the smaller design? So much time lost. But yeah. And
Thank goodness
imagine if
you
I
hit the
hadn't,
wall. Thank goodness engineering wise it worked. You figured it out.
yeah, and imagine this. Imagine if I hadn't asked the question,
Mhm.
right? We might be sitting here today with something that's, you know, this big, tiny. So what if we didn't force it? What if we didn't, they said we're not interested and we walked away and said, okay, nice to meet you. If that's all we did and we never got the truth, then we might still be sitting here peddling the wrong thing. We eventually would have gotten that feedback from someone. But when? At what point? When would someone actually have stepped up to tell us, listen, this thing it's not done right. It needs work. So
My gosh,
get
this is like a
feedback.
master class. Master class, Bonnie. Oh, I want to talk to you all
10
day.
years,
I
10
don't have
years of
words.
torture will teach anyone.
Well, I do have one final question for you. And this question is, what is it that you want to be known for? What is the legacy that you want to leave behind?
I want to be known for a lot of things. Are you talking business or just
Anything.
overall?
Yeah. Overall. Yeah. Bonnie,
I want
what
to
do
be
you?
known as a creative spirit,
Hmm.
someone who brings needed things to the world,
Yeah.
solves problems, uh, someone who's empathetic, someone
Hmm.
who loves the relationships in their lives, and doesn't treat everyone special. And what I mean by that is not everyone gets the same Bonnie. So I would never treat everyone the same, because to me that diminishes that special feeling you have for the people that surround you, that you're closest to. They should know the best version of you. You're nice to everybody, right? And treat everyone with respect. But that special part of your heart and who you are is reserved for that
Hmm.
inner circle that are lucky enough to be around you that you're lucky enough to be around.
Mm.
So I'd want to be known for being a wonderful wife, sister, daughter, mom, dog mom, Wrigley. Just someone who brings value to the world, a good
Mm.
listener, someone who listens, someone
Mm.
who's helpful, someone who cares, someone who goes out of their way for other people,
That's
even when it's
beautiful.
inconvenient for you.
I see so many of those qualities in you. I think you're living that mission. So, and I think your dad would be so proud. I mean, when you mentioned the first thing you said you loved about your dad was that he was firm but kind, and I see that I can see that quality come through in you and so strongly. Like you're just a tenacious, fierce entrepreneur, but you have this incredible empathy about you. So
Thank
thank
you.
you for everything that you do, Bonnie. You're such an inspiration to me and to so many other
As are
women.
you, my friends. Let's not
Yeah.
let's not let's not forget to throw some love Nicole's way, because seriously, you're killing it. You are killing it also. And even with the podcast, I mean, I know like this is new, right,
Yeah,
for you.
it is.
And but seriously, you're a seasoned pro already. You are. And you ask good questions. You lead the person where they need to go. You make it comfortable and you make it fun. And that to me, those are the best qualities of any podcaster out there. Those are the 4 top qualities you need to have, and you have every one of them in spades. So
Oh my gosh, Bonnie, you made my
back at
whole
you.
day. Thank you. Oh my gosh, you're gonna make me cry. Well, thank you. This has been so great. Man, I'm so grateful to have you in my network. I'm so grateful I got to meet you through Kurt. He's an awesome connector, and you've
Me
just
too.
been. I'm so excited to continue to stay connected, and can't wait for everyone to hear all of this wisdom you've shared. It's
You know what?
incredible.
We have you're a new friend. I'm a new friend, and guess what? We don't have to do this. We can just pick up the phone and
Yes.
dial and speak
Yep.
whenever we want. So, and
Yep.
I have some of the greatest friends from LinkedIn. We don't schedule appointments. So, it's my favorite thing sometimes when my phone rings and I say, okay, oh, it's so and so. It's not like, oh, when is it good for you to speak? I'll send you an invite. No,
Yeah.
now it's a friend. The same way
Yeah.
one of my girlfriends would call me. And if I'm busy, I might not pick up, or I might pick up and be like, oh, I'm busy. Whatever, I'll call you later.
Yeah.
A regular friend. So I now consider you in that group.
Oh my gosh, I'm honored. Well, when you're having a salty day, I'm here for it. When you're having an amazing day and you
Back
just
at you.
I want to listen to that
Anytime,
salty.
because I'm always willing to get a little salty.
Tales of Misadventure is produced, edited, and moderated by Julie Basello with Basello Media. Music by Marcus Way. Special thanks to our amazing guests and the entire DMG Digital team. Visit us at dmgdigital.io to get access to all our podcast interviews and other helpful resources. And if you'd like to get updates on the latest and greatest, please sign up for our email newsletter. We'll see you next time for another episode of Tales of Misadventure. Until then, keep falling forward.